All right, testing. I think we're live. I think we finally got this. Maybe I just need to change my time because, of course, it took longer than anticipated to get everything running. So, see where we left off because it's been a while since I've even looked at this because I wanted to kind of make sure we do this all together without going too far on my own or anything like that. So, we've kind of looked at certain scope, how we want it to be, how we want to limit it, what we want it to look like. Kind of over favorite games here: Zelda, Diablo, MapleStory, everyone's favorite game, and some of the styles we want to incorporate. So we would have some of the enemies we were looking at. Yeah, and I think that's a good start. We kind of want to move on from here. We did do our little rough sketch and how we kind of wanted to get it with a mixture of different elements, right? We wanted to have a platforming element to make it tough just to complete in time. Kind of talked about this last time. Got the speed and time element because we want to make it a time-based. So finish as fast as possible and maybe at some point set up a leaderboard. And then you can go through and try different builds and stuff like that to see if you can beat the game quicker. And we also have the player health. So we want to add a challenge. Certain levels are going to be more tricky, whether it's environmental issues or the monsters could be tougher. And then also what was the other one? The monsters remaining. Yeah, so that way there's different, each level can be catered differently. Speed, survivability, or damage output are kind of the three, and to mix those and weave those through the 20 different maps, I think will be good for variety's sake. And then also would be good for replayability. So maybe one time you want to go through with a completely agile class. You can get through the platform elements no problem, and you avoid and hit the monsters from afar. That's great. Next time you want to do a warrior one, might be tougher for the platforming, but you can tank all the monster hits, so they're less of an issue. And then there's also going to be the environmental one, which I'm thinking it's probably just going to stay flat across this, not taking into account like your armor or anything like that. And that way you can't just tank that, right? You're always going to have those kind of issues. And from there, we kind of dove into some of the attributes and player skills, how that's going to interact. So this is kind of the nodes we decided on. You beat the first level, you're going to choose, this is going to kind of essentially be your class. Whether you want to do bow, sword, or I guess I just put it here. This will probably be staff. Yeah, okay, we already got it there. Yeah, so this is going to be the first level. So you're going to start off as basically a beginner. You're going to go through, if you can complete the first level, which it's going to be quote-unquote the tutorial level, right? Kind of want to mix, instead of having a long drawn-out tutorial we talked about, we want to mix the gameplay and a level into the tutorial sense. So really, I think the Zelda games do a great job of that. Most of them, they're not too hand-holdy. Like there's enough, but I mean, besides maybe Fi or Fi, whatever it is, that sword gets kind of annoying. But for the most part, if you think about like Ocarina of Time, you kind of just hop in there. There's a couple people here and there that say, hey, check this, check that. But really, it's you going in there and figuring it out yourselves. One of the things I'd like to avoid is the tutorial, like one of my favorites, Pokemon. Sun and Moon, I don't know if anyone played that one, where that game just, the first, I feel like 2-3 hours was story, hand-holding, do this, do that, do that, do that, do that. We don't want that. We also don't want it to be so, I mean, I don't think we want it to be so free where people can go in and have no idea what they're doing. So there's definitely a good middle ground between freedom and direction. And for this game, since it's a simple platformer / monster killer, I don't know what we want to call this. I'd probably just call it a platformer. Then I don't think we need too much. But I think first level should really, let's actually, do we want to start that yet? I don't want to get too far in the weeds yet. We kind of want to get the broad scope first. We've talked about art. You know what? We can talk about music. Let's talk about music. How we want our music to look. So if we take this, let's just duplicate this. We got our enemies, we got our art, game styles. Can we make this bigger? Okay, that's good. It's a good reminder. Style elements from MapleStory. I just like the 2D, how they incorporate the 2D, 3D, parallax, or whatever you want to call it. We really got some depth on that. And the charm with a darker tone, like a mixture. It's too happy. But if you look at Hollow Knight, it's kind of darker, more. I don't know if I want to say adult, but that's the kind of tone. And then bringing it like a style of Zelda into a 2D sprite face on, because I know they have 2D sprites for some of their games, right? But bring it a little more live, maybe like 3D model of it projected into a 2D space. I think we'd like to go with that. Yeah, and then for our music. So really, how do we want to organize this? What do you guys think? Do you guys think there should be a specific thing? I know in the background here we got some Legend of Zelda music going, which is some of my favorite. But for this, I feel like it... I think we want it to be a little more wild. Like a lot of these songs, they feel like they're very set to one specific town, where it's really the ambiance, the feeling of a particular location, where ours is going to kind of be maybe through a forest, through this, so maybe more wild. I know Zelda has some of that too. But let's see. I don't necessarily want to call it wilderness either, but wilderness ambience, however you spell that. Oh, not what I meant to do. Let's add another text here. Let's move this so it's more in focus. And what else? What other games have really good music? Really like the orchestral sound. And really, I want it to be... I'm not in tune with music at all. So to try to describe this art, moody? Like this song playing here, this is too happy, right? Good song, but it's like, oh, we're in the forest, it's happy, we got all these kokiri going about our day. That's too much. We want it to be, get that intense, that feeling, that emotional, that we need to go solve something. That there's something going on, we're working towards getting to the end. We're trying to get things back to normal, think something's wrong. I don't know. So that's kind of what I'm feeling there. I like some of the MapleStory background music because it truly is background. But darker. I mean, I'm sure I can dive in and find something. That's really, I think that's a good spot there. It'll get us going. We don't have a budget, right? We don't have $1 million to go and get a bunch of music made. But it seems like I'm taking a lot of inspiration from just a couple sources. But that's what I like. That's what I'm feeling right now. I want more input. I probably need to play more games lately. Just being a father, 2 kids. Right now it's and a full-time job. It's pretty tough. Let's take a look. Oh yeah. Bring up some of the AI generated art. Because I know this is still a discussion point. And like I said before, I think it's a good starting point to get your ideas really out there from your brain, at least for me. I can't describe something in words. You saw me trying to describe music there. That doesn't work. So using something like that to get something that's in my head onto the page to be able to give to an artist, I think it's very helpful. And that's kind of the extent that we want to do on there. Here, let me just check this real quick, make sure that's going. Okay. That is working. Good, good, good. Now, what should we move on to next? I know there's so much more to this. I guess we can go here. I don't think... So let's do an arrow. Let's talk about how we want to build this. Like, I don't think I want this to be tile map based. You can make pretty nice ones and get it to generate a lot of different ones really quickly. But I think for this, since we're doing a set number of levels, that we can do sprite based. Right, because then we can make them very unique. Probably take more work, but... Sorry, let me zoom in here. So right now, really we don't want to... We could do... Right, we can... Oh, that's not what I want to do. Duplicate. Right, we make each one of these tiles something like this. And have it, here's our ground within these tiles. Then maybe this one's a slope down one, is this, and then they'll have different, more just the art tiles. If we do that with the tile map, which I messed with before, it's nice, it's really easy to draw out these levels. Like, it'd be super easy to boom, boom, boom. But I think it limits our ability to make things a little more unique. Like, if we want to have rolling hills, I know we could do it, something similar. But we could just draw, here's our floating platform or whatever. We could just draw this, whatever it looks like. Grass, and then our physics box, our collider, can really just match this perfectly, right? Really, we're just worried about the top. But I feel like going that way, we can, one, really take advantage of some artists' skills. We can make them look beautiful. We can make them all unique. We can make them really have a nice tone or a theme for each one. Because I imagine through the 20 levels, we're going to maybe start destroyed city or something. And this is going to move into a desert. These are all just examples. And then once we get through the desert, maybe we find a rocky mountain, rocky outcrop. I don't know. To a grassland. And then from the grassland, forest. So, I mean, you kind of get the idea. Let me bring it so everyone can see, but really it's, I want it to kind of progress steadily through. So, I mean, it gives it variety. We can have different music for each one. We can have a different, even different lighting, this and that. And that way we can change, add some areas. Like, I know there are a lot of areas, and I want to pinpoint desert areas for whatever reason in a lot of games that people do not like. I'm thinking specifically of, I'm going to get hate for this, but in Diablo 2, Act 2, Lut Gholein, however you pronounce it. I know personally going through it, that was always my least favorite type of environment. But at the same time, I feel like it's good to have things, you don't want to do things that everyone likes, right? Maybe you do. But for me, I like the variety. Like, oh man, let's get through this desert, which, I mean, it's a desert. It's not supposed to be a hospitable place. You don't necessarily want it to be warm and fuzzy and go camp out there. So I'd like to add that. And then we can also, it also gives us a good way to vary our enemies. Like the enemies in a desert are going to be different than enemies in a forest. And it gives us a natural progression instead of just changing them. And a lot of the things can just be changed with color palettes, if we like. Or we can just do full things. Because, I mean, if this is a grassland, I know this looks terrible. But if we're inside of a cave, these might have little stalactites. If we're in a forest, maybe it's covered in moss. If we have trees in the background, those will be covered in moss and things like that. So I think I want to go sprite-based on here. We can mess with the hitboxes, the collision, everything like that. So with that, I mean, I've had so many things in my head just waiting to get it all out for all of us. Let's see if we can hop into our game design document and see what we can get started on this. Kind of just took a basic one. I believe I did use ChatGPT for this one, so apologies for that. There are so many out there. I just thought this would be easy to bring in. They all have similar things. And just really important, not necessarily the exact format, but to really get these down on paper or online in a document. Because that gives you something to guide it. It helps you. Our big thing we were talking about is limiting scope. So if we get something down on our template or our game design document, it really helps us reel it in. And when you start writing out, if it starts getting too long or gets too crazy, you can already feel like, hey, we might be going too crazy. Right? So for our game's title, anybody got any ideas? The ideas, I have no idea for title. This is going to be Monster Platformer in Progress. Sorry, I'm going to make sure the kid's not awake. All right. Monster Platformer in Progress. I was reading down here. Our genre is going to be a platformer with very simple RPG. I'm thinking more about the characters and weapons and skills and stuff like that, but elements. Time-based. Target audience. And this is going to be It's going to be more for casual gamers with competitive speed leaderboard. So for the casual gamer, just going through and completing it will make it so it's not completely difficult. It's not going to be one of those platformers where you have to be pixel perfect and everyone's just getting mad the whole time. It's going to be beatable. But when it starts getting tougher, if you want to add a challenge to it, that's why we have the timer. We have a leaderboard. We have different builds that you can do to really do that. And then the leaderboard, I'm thinking we could probably... Yeah, we can split it up by class. That way you have a reason to, hey, I want to get number 1 in bow class. I want to get number 1 on sword. I want to get number 1 on staff. Go through all that. Our unique selling point. See, and this is, we talked about it the first time. We want it to be unique. Sure, of course, everyone wants to be unique, but if you start focusing on that too much to make something nothing's ever done, especially for a first game, then we're probably just going to stall out. This is a hobby right now. We're doing this for fun. We're doing this just to get something released, which is going to take a lot more time and money than I imagined, but we want to keep it in scope to be released, and that's what we want to do. So our unique selling point is going to be I think what's going to put it in a spot is it's the combination. That's what's really going to be the sets us apart, because there's a lot of just platformers out there, blah blah blah. You jump, get A to B. There's a lot of RPGs out there. There's a lot of platformer RPGs, but mixing this in with a time-based, simplistic thing, I think it's really what's going to be unique to this compared to other things. I am only going to focus to release this on PC right now. If we focus on too many things, again, it's more than I can handle. I'm one person. We are one community. If we start getting more and more involvement, sure, maybe we can all join in together and work on this. But right now, keep it simple. Maybe that'll be a Monster Platformer in Progress 2. Our core vision statement. Game's core concept. It's going to be... See, and this should be... I think going through this is a lot more important than it seems. Because to really sum down, to keep it in scope and focus, we should be able to do a one sentence easy. So I think it's... what's our one sentence description? Somebody help me. Anybody there? We can do complete platforming challenges while growing our character and defeating the monsters that took over. That's probably not the best, but we'll do that. Okay. Time-based. Challenge where growing our character and defeating the monsters that took over. I mean, you add enough ands and enough conjunctions in there, you can make a sentence real long, right? But we did it. Saved into one. Okay, the core loop of our gameplay. Outline basic gameplay. Okay. So it's going to be 20 levels at boss level. 21. Core loop, it's going to be point A to B platformer, right? That's the general point. Go point A to point B platformer. within a time limit and defeating all monsters. And then grow character as goals are reached. So that's easy there, right? Going point A to point B. We're defeating monsters, which that's typical there. And then, yeah. Check something real quick. I'm good. It is live. No recommended change. Cool. We are good there. All right, next. Our mechanics, our movement. So our movement is going to be running, jumping. It's going to be our movement. Nothing crazy. We're not doing crazy wall jumps. We are not doing... Maybe we should... Nah. See? That's when we start increasing scope going through this. Be running, jumping. And this is going to be based on character attributes. Right, so we can run faster. If we have more agility, we can jump higher if we have more of this. So all that's going to be based on our character attributes. Our combat is going to be melee, ranged, magic. It's going to be based on the class chosen. E.g. bow, sword, staff. We're going to have typical attack. So if we're just swinging the sword, or we have special skills that we can add to it if we decide to. Right. We're going through, as we beat each level, we can go through, we can choose, we're going to do a mastery, or we're going to add to the skill and add some more points to that and boost our damage there. So there's going to be the very simplistic things because we want to keep this real narrow and focused. Our interactions really through here, what can we interact with? It's not necessarily a puzzle, right? It's platform. We interact with the platform, we interact with the ground, we interact with all that. Walls, ground, all that fun stuff. What else could we? Any ideas for this? Kind of jumping into this, what would we want to interact with? I think what we could do, since we do want to add element of time and survivability, we're going to have environmental hazards. E.g., well, like thorn bush or something like that. And that just goes really with the platforming to try to make it to the end and survive. If you hit a thorn bush, you lose 10 health. Simple stuff. So you can jump over it, you can go around it, whatever you got to do. And I guess I can give us options too. You can add two different routes on this. You can go the long route where you can avoid it, but it's going to take time from the timer, or you can try to go around it, over it, and jump it. So if you add more agility, you have more jump and run speed, maybe you want to try to jump over it. Whereas if you just went full strength route, you want to go around it because there's going to be a pixel perfect jump or something like that. We'll make it so it's always possible no matter what build you do. But depending on what you do, how you build your character, it's probably a different way that you do want to approach it. What do we need to achieve at the end of the level? I mean, really, it's point A to point B. You just need to get to the end. Player objective is defeat all monsters. And finish in time. We'll have that timer. And get from point A to B. And this could be at the end, collect power gem. This is just really placeholder. So you get to the power gem or whatever, and that lets you add stat point, add 1 skill point. Easy. Right, 1 stat, 1 skill. We're not going to have crazy branches. We're keeping this in scope, in line, product we can finish. And I mean, and this is all something we can take input on. We want to do this as a community game, so if anyone's there, just if you have ideas for what we should do, what should we call these things, what other kind of hazards we can throw in. I mean, we're doing this all together. We're open for anything, right? All right, win-loss conditions. So we have our win conditions is easy. So our win conditions, we're going to have 2 different, right? We're going to have level and game. So level-based, it's just get from A to B. Platforming. And then we also need to defeat all monsters. So there's 2 conditions to win each level. I guess that'd be a lose condition. So our lose conditions, or I guess our win game, just beat all levels, and final boss. Easy. Level 21, like we said before. We'll have a boss level there. And what else can we do? I guess we can go into our lose. That's easy enough. So for our level, lose is run out of time or run out of health. And then game-wise, what's going to trigger a reset? What's going to be punishing enough? Maybe get 3 overall lives, and then you have to go back all the way to the beginning. Do we want to do that? Or do we just want to add all the time that it took on these levels? No, I think we got to 3 total lives / retry. We'll try that. I mean, this is an easy one to change. I mean, are we going to be able to save and all this stuff? I mean, I still think that's fine. Because we can do every 5 levels, maybe get another life. Start with 3. At level 5, you get 1. At level 10. That way you have an incentive, and you don't have to go back to the beginning so easily. We'll start there, though. I like that. Story, this is where I can need everyone's help. What are we going to do for the story? Yeah, some lore building would be great in the community. Can I like pin this? Yeah, I think I really would like us all to come together on this. Maybe I'll leave this. This one I really want to have some other people. Maybe I'll post something. Maybe we can get some other interaction on this. So I think this will be fun. But we can go to the visual style level design. Our visual style is going to be 2D platformer. We want to do sprite-based. We want it to be charming, but have a darker tone. That adds, we want to add drama to the game. We want it to feel like you're, gosh, see, I'm already having trouble. Mixture, styles, maps / platforms, Hollow Knight, tone, emotions, and I really like the mixture of Legend of Zelda. Is that Twilight Princess? Yeah, and we also have this on our brainstorming thing. So that's kind of what I feel for that. Our music, it's gonna be heavily ambient. Would like orchestral sounds, e.g. Zelda. Sound effects, how do we want to do our sound? Yeah, we talked about these two. We can bring that up after we go through this, but like this music that's playing now, I feel like could be good. Something like this, it's kind of got that dreary, the dread. It needs to be a mixture of this with some more environmental wind or trees or leaves or animals or something like that, which, I mean, maybe we can just overlay something like that as well. And our sound effects, how should we do sound effects? I think skills have unique sound effects. Enemies when hit. Unique. And that's going to be shuffle. We don't want it to be get really monotonous. Because then some guys, if you have the same sound over and over and over again, then it starts getting real. It's boring. It's boring to the ears. Randomly through 5 sounds or so, and volume. Right, if there's 5 different sounds, or 3 different sounds and 3 different volumes, that really makes it be for each enemy. And I think that'll be nice for that. Skills have unique sounds, so it'll be a skill sound when you use it, and then when the monsters get hit, do that. What other sound effects? Environmental. Damage will have something. Player hit, have something. I don't want these to be too like 8-bit. not 8-bit. Cautious say realistic sounds. Not retro. I don't want the retro sounds on this one. Voiceover narration. Do we want any voiceovers? I don't think we'll have any. Oh, and then we'll have sound effects. I mean, text disappearing. Go through there. Walking, jumping. Yeah, I think that's good. That's a good start. Once we get in there, we'll start getting more of a feel for it, and we can always, this is a living document, right? You can always kind of adjust some of these. Our level structure is slash minor split paths. Like we said before, there could be one path. Hey, Samuel, how's it going? Welcome, welcome. Feel free. We're doing this as a community game, so I want everyone's input while we're going through this. Let me know what you think. Yeah, so our levels said it's going to be a linear platform, right? You need to get from A to B. There's not going to be too much craziness through there, but we want to have different split paths that can interact with our character attributes. So if we are a very agile character, we want to be able to maybe skip part of it, because being agile, we're getting rid of something. We would have something that's in. Hey, thanks for the follow. Yeah, so we're more agile. We will not have the strength or anything that we need. So we're taking away. It's all a balance. So if we have a lot of strength, a lot of health, we don't necessarily want all that agility. So we want to have different routes that we can go, which will change how we play the game each time. So that's why we want to add, it's a linear platform with minor split paths. E.g., we'll have the agility path. I'm just going to call it the agility path and the strength path for now. And either of the paths are going to be possible no matter how you adjust the stats. I don't want you to be forced to, or I don't want the player to be forced to add certain points in a certain way. It should be possible to do everything, albeit much harder. If you have no agility, some of these platformers, much harder. But I want it to be possible. And that's how we're going to balance the time versus monster mechanics. So maybe we got a few more people in here. Maybe let's try to bring up what I was saying here. Kind of been outlining, brainstorming how we want this to look. So here's my beautiful drawing. Right, simple first game on here. We want to do this as community, simple scope, something easy. Let's do a platformer. Right, but I want to incorporate the 3 different ways that we can rearrange the designs, or rearrange the maps. So we're going to have it timed levels, so there's a time component. You have to get from point A to point B in X minutes, X seconds, whatever it is. So that is the main thing. But on top of that, I wanted to add a monster mechanic. Kill the monsters, so then there's something that you need to do with your character. Do you need to make them stronger? Is your defense too low? Are you not fast enough? Do you need to avoid? Do you need accuracy? All those will help you defeat the monsters faster. And then also there's the player health. So if we have environmental obstacles, there's spikes, there's thorn bushes, whatever it may be, we want to be able to navigate that. So really kind of go through these. There's a speed and time element, and I want to make it a leaderboard. So you have an incentive to go back and play it again. Like I did it with a warrior this time, or whatever we want to call it. I beat it in 30 minutes. Let's try if we can go faster with a wizard. can we go faster with a bowman? Yeah, and then with that, to keep it simple, right? Simplicity, keep it in scope. I don't know if you guys run into this problem because I do all the time. I come up with an idea for something and then my mind just goes and make the biggest thing ever. So, I mean, I'd like our first game together to be some crazy MMORPG, but is that feasible? Learning out? It's just going to get too daunting and then nothing's going to be finished. So to incorporate some of the stuff I do want, each level, each step of the way, you get 1 stat point, you get 1 skill point. So after the first level, you choose your class. After that, there's only a couple choices. So this web is very contained. It's easy just to lay out, boom, 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 boom. As opposed to, I just was looking at the Path of Exile 2, the crazy spiderweb universe, whatever they have, it is insane, and it's the most daunting thing I've seen. I mean, when you get into these things, they're never as hard as they seem when you first look at it, but it's just wild. So we want to keep that, give us some sort of RPG element. And there'll be some sort of growth, because after we get through each level, get through here, we add our points, and then we'll go to the next one. Monsters will be harder, the platforming will be more difficult. Every 5 levels or so, a boss. And we'll want to grow our character. We're not going to equip a bunch of items. Let's not add a whole bunch of stats. Let's keep it pretty simple, something manageable. And then for our next one, after we get this all squared away, then we can do a full-on RPG. And then while we're here, kind of looking into how we want after each level, we got our player stats, how we want it to interact with our attributes. So it's going to be simple calculations. So strength's going to impact something. Wisdom's going to give you something here. Agility and sleight, where I'm going with. That's kind of the overview that we're looking at. And then we're really going into how we want it to be laid out, how we're going to make this possible. Let's go back to this, and maybe we got some people here. Anyone has ideas for lore? How do we want the story to be? It's something I struggle with a lot. Is artwork, music, and story. Nuts and bolts mechanics, I can figure out. It's not cut and dry. It's nothing's cut and dry, but it's more logical for me. But when it comes to these kind of things, I can't think. So how should the story go? We have a player thrust into, obviously something's going down. Whether it's their world's been overrun by monsters that weren't there before, and then we have to go defeat the boss monster to get it back to normal. I mean, that's a pretty standard story, right? You're Link, you're set out, Ganon took over the world, you beat all the monsters, you go through, you beat Ganon, things go back to normal. So I feel like that could be the general sense of that. But I mean, what else could we do? I need more detail. What should the player's name be? What should the monster be? Should it take place in medieval times? It's always where my mind goes for these kind of games. Should it take place in the future? Which is where my mind never goes. Yeah. Any ideas? Because I'm going to, I can tell, I'm going to just say medieval cartoon style, semi-realism, but I want it to keep charming. Town is some overrun. Some overrun by monsters. You start there, you're going out as an adventurer. And that's what you do. You defeat all the monsters, you get to the boss, you defeat it to save your world. That feels pretty basic, and I think we can come up with something better. let's figure that out. I'm still going to leave that because I think this is the most that can change. We can add that in. Once we get our core mechanics down, we can add that in whenever. But I wanted to tie into, I mean, we kind of talked about this is already leading towards that medieval, right? The medieval cartoon style. Audio style, we went through the audio now. Let's keep going through this. Our level structure. Platforming. How many levels? 20 levels. Levels here, and then plus 1 major boss. Within the 20 levels, main levels, boss every 5. And I think adding the boss every 5 adds just one more element. Like if you could kill regular monsters easy if you're with this class, but it makes it a little harder to tank a boss move. Like maybe it makes you want to add some more strength instead of all agility, even if you are on the range class with a bow. Yeah, and that's the whole goal. I think I talked about it in the last stream. I don't want it to get to a point where every character is, hey, I'm a warrior, all strength, ignore everything else. I feel like it's gotten too simple. I like for there to be choices. There's got to be trade-offs. There's got to be choices, and it has to actually impact what you do. Like Diablo 2, I know everything would be put the least amount of strength you put in, max vitality for almost every class. MapleStory, it's max out your main stat. And I don't want that. I want the other. I think we, community game, I got to remember, I think we should make it so that each class wants some of all the other stats to progress. Your wizard does want some strength to get some armor to defend against the monsters. Your bowman does want some intelligence, what I call it, wisdom, to gain, I forget, magic defense, because when you get to level 10, the monster has a really strong magic attack. Something like that. And then they're all going to want some agility to get through the platforming section easier. Or else it's going to be very tough to meet the time limit. I'm good with that. Okay, number of levels, level structure. Boss every 5. Our themes probably start at a town. Move to different environments, biomes. Go through desert. Desert, forest, grass, land. Yeah, so we can get a different thing for each one. We can get different monsters, we can get different music, we can get different art. And when we go through that, it'll be more interesting instead of just the same background, the same music each time. So our difficulty curve. So first level, we talked about, it's going to be the tutorial. We want the tutorial kind of baked into the game and not have it as separate. You must follow A, B, C, D, E, F, G in order, and then you get a thumbs up to move on. First level will be the tutorial. It's going to be easy. And then for that, we want a lot of context clues. Is that playing Blue's Clues? Let's do context clues into the level design. And this can be flowers indicating something. So if you see a flower in the first one, you're like, oh, okay, I should probably interact with that, or I should probably avoid that. Or some sort of UI text comes up. All built into that because we don't want to have that typical tutorial. Then it's going to be slowly gets harder. This is going to be either the platforming elements get harder, the monsters, the environmental, or a combination. Right, so we go from one level to the next to make it harder from 1 to 2. Maybe we just make the platforming harder. For 2 to 3, the platforming is about the same difficulty, but we make the monsters harder. And that's probably the first 5 will be like that. Right, we won't use the same platform, but from 1, our tutorial, to 2, we'll add a few more platforms that you need to navigate. From 2 to 3, we will add more monsters or harder monsters, but keep the same level of platforming. And that way the player can see how it's going to progress throughout. And when we get to the end, it'll be a crazy mix of all of it. Bosses. 5 levels. 5 levels. Because that'll really test their use of the character. There'll still be platforms to get to the boss. That way each 5 levels will have a mini boss so they can really test out their characters. So maybe they're just really good at platforming and avoiding monsters and just hitting them from afar. But you get to the mini boss, then you're still going to have to learn how to actually attack. All right, what is next? What is next? We have unique mechanics and specific levels. I think that's really going to be bosses, and then end boss, and then unique environmental hazards. And that'll just all be built into how we build out each of these 20 levels. The engine we're going to use, I believe, I already know Unity. I think we're going to go 3D game locking 1 axis. So it's going to be built in the 3D modeler to give us a little easier to get some depth if we need it. But all of our stuff that we're doing, the player, the platform, the world, the monsters, are going to be confined to one plane. So it's going to be 2D in that sense, and use the 3D to give it a little bit of depth here, there. And I think Unity would be a good tool for that. And that's going to be in C#. And the reason for this is I'm a little familiar with that, and also that there's good documentation. So when I do inevitably run into problems, when we inevitably run into problems, there's good documentation that we can try to figure out what's going on. I do like that. I do like that. That's good. Our control scheme is going to be keyboard with controller support as well. There shouldn't be too many buttons. It's not going to be a crazy RPG where you have 40 buttons. You're going to need a move, so D-pad or WASD or whatever we choose on that. We need an attack. We need a jump. And then a skill. So we need, 4 buttons and a D-pad? So let's see, what feels good? maybe we do down, left, right, left, shift, space, and control. And that could be D-pad, A left shift set. Controls attack, left shift B. I don't know. We can mess with this. I'm not too concerned about this one yet. We'll do D-pad. We'll do. Be good. A, B. What's a good jump? So A jump. B attack. I'm just keep thinking of a Switch controller. A, B, X, Y. Triangle, square, circle, X. A jump, B attack, and then Y skill. Sorry, that's what I was looking at right now. But yeah, I mean, that's easy enough. Camera's going to be side view. Looking into negative. Is that negative Z? Oh, I always forget. We have it down. It's X and Z and Y, but we're going to be on the Y. Yeah, I think that's right. Negative Z. It's going to be follow character, because the map's going to be bigger than the camera view. Right, we want to add a sense of scale. That's good. Let's put that in map bigger. Camera view. So bigger than camera view, we want to follow character, smooth the movement. So it's not going to be completely snapped to it. Character's going to move. It's going to slowly lag behind, catch back up. And I think that makes it nice. Target frame rate, resolutions. 60 frames per second. 1080p. I think that's fine. Monetization strategy. How do we make money on this? It's going to be paid game on Steam. And let's leave it at that. Right? I don't want to make it too crazy. That's how the game's going to make money. To fund the game, that's going to be a whole different story. So hopefully we can build a community here. We all work together. Community / self-funded. So once we start bringing in money, I'll probably start using personal funds. Let's get this going. But I really want our community to be really involved. Not feel like they're just paying me to do it, that they're paying to get something creative that they'd want as well. And that's really, really what I want, what I'd be grateful for, is to get that sense of community while we're going through this, to make the game and not make it about me. It's about having fun together. It's just about creating something that we're all going to enjoy playing. And with that, if we can build a community that wants to support that, then I think that would just be awesome. And if we get to a certain point, maybe Kickstarter? Who knows? Project timeline. Now this is the tough one. Our project timeline, because I want it to be a realistic timeline, but I also want to have a set date. Today is the 9th. Today is January 9th. We are going to Aim for prototype. Primitive prototype 1 level. We do this all on stream. I might have to do some offline. Let's do February 28th. 2 months, basically. 28th, we're going to have rectangles, we're going to have circles, we're going to have monsters, we're going to have a platform with placeholder art. We're going to be able to get from point A to point B. Make sure that we beat the monsters, make sure we don't die. And we want to aim for that by February 28th. Can we do that? And then we're going to have and then let's do debugging, optimizing. Let's give us a month to tweak. So we get it working, and let's really hone in on it. So get it working first. We'll hone in on that. Let's give that to by March 21st. Pre-alpha with some actual art. So we should have all the mechanics. We'll need to import the art. And with that, we should shoot for May 30th. Remember, we're going to try to keep this very narrow in scope. Very narrow. So let's hope that works. And what else should we do? What else should we do? Alpha launch. These are going to be, I think these are going to be pretty crazy timelines, but we could probably, let's just do it for this. Beta. Beta release. We will do beta release in September 30th. And game release. My goal is to make it all within a year. And with everyone's help in the community, I think we can do that. I think we can do that. Saving, okay. Team roles. Right now, it's me. Programming. Community. Responsible for the game. What's it called? Coming up with the idea? Game mechanics or development. We want community support everywhere, of course. And what other ones do we need? Art, music. Art, music, marketing. Very important. The music still need. And this will probably be a commission piece. Alpha's your birthday? Hey, December. I was looking at here. July 31st. I mean, I hope we can hit that. I'd love to drop Alpha on your birthday. You'd be the first one to get a copy. And love to keep this going, but I'm going to need to really buckle down, get people in there. But Alpha, that's simply Mario's birthday. put that right in there so we remember. Oh, what engine? I think my plan is to build in Unity, just because I have a little bit of experience doing this. I mean, I'm up to different ideas. I just really like the documentation on this too for starting out. There's so much information out there. And then, yeah, obviously any inputs we're welcome here. We're doing this together. This isn't my game. This is our game. But yeah, what I've noticed on this, kind of going through it so far, is when I run into problems on some of my other just hobby things, it's pretty easy to find something to fix the issue running into, and people run into it all the time. That's the play for now. That's our timeline for now. Will the timeline happen? I mean, the more the more support, the more people we get involved, the more likely, not more likely, the more time we can put towards it too. So if we start getting some help and a lot of input when we're going through this project, I think we're going to be able to nail down what we want quicker. We're going to be able to fix the mechanics that we want quicker. And I think it'll be more fun for all of us, especially me. It's really just a passion project to get a community, people to talk to. I mean, it's, yeah, kind of what this is all about. Not about making any money, because everyone knows how hard this industry is. It's not about making the best game ever, because I have no real experience in all this. It's about the community. It's about building something together. And big thing is releasing a project. I want to finish something. So yeah, back down to... Oh, okay, that's a good question. So let me open up this other one here. So these kind of represent how each level works. So this is kind of like your node, you beat a level. So in level 1, you're going to go through just as a human, a person. You beat the first level and you get to choose your class after the tutorial. And then after that, or after every level, you get to add 1 point. So you finish the first level, you choose your class, and you add a point. Your next level, you can get a choice. You can add a skill, and there's only going to be one skill. We're going to keep this thing. You can add to your skill or to your mastery. So mastery will be increase your normal bow damage. It'll decrease your minimum damage, because there's going to be some sort of randomness. It'll add damage to your skill as well. So if your mastery goes up, your skill damage goes up. So each level you can add a point to either this, at a certain threshold. Once you meet a prerequisite with your skill, you can choose between 2 power-ups. So each level you'll get 1 point, character attribute, and 1 skill. And these will be what are considered skills. So the tree will stay pretty manageable. And with only 20 levels, 21, I guess, you'll get 20 points. I think we can make that stay within scope and easy enough. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that that'll be manageable for keeping it within a year time frame? Because I mean, I've started messing around with just on a previous thing I was looking at different characters, different jobs that you can choose, and then at each job there you can choose 2 different paths, and how quickly the path branches out is insane. And you can get so much variety. So with this, you get a skill, a mastery, and choose between 1 and 2 power-ups, or choose between 1 power-up. These are going to be an or. You're not going to be able to have both power-ups. So if you go bow route, you choose, let's just say, multi-shot for your skill, multi-shot with pierce, or multi-shot with elemental damage. So you multi-shot, and then it adds a chance to pierce, or multi-shot, and it has fire damage. And that's it. Yep, exactly. That's my problem too. I wish I had I drew it out on paper how I wanted it to flow, my original one. And it was starting with 4 characters. Each 4 character then goes to it's like a race, and then it goes to a class. Then each class branched into I forget what it was, mastery, and then each mastery was a specialization. So if you have 4, it goes crazy, and then you could go this way, this way, this way, this way, and I mean, I still want to work on that one, but it gets too crazy. So if we can keep it simple, because the most we're going to have, what, is 1, 2, 8 different real paths, because mastery is always going to be there, and you're always going to have to add points to that. So that'll be easy enough for us to code. And then with those stats, to keep it easy enough to manage here, we really want them to impact a couple of them. Let me make that so it's more visible. Because, I mean, you can have your strength be involved in all these different attributes, and it just gets mingled. And if you start adding like passive skills and all this, like even this right here, right? The total attributes, it already feels like a lot, but I feel like it's the ones that are kind of necessary or basic to a lot of these kind of games. Do you see anything from this list that you think is missing or could be gotten rid of to simplify things? Yeah, yeah, right. It is. I feel like it is. Yeah. The thing I was running into is I wanted to make sure each stat had multiple things that it improves. And that way you want to add to different ones. So I don't know if you're here saying, like, a lot of these games now, they become so streamlined. If you make a warrior or whatever, put everything into strength, and that's kind of it. Or you make a magician, you want all in intelligence, and that's the end of it. So by trying to make this more of a little bit of a web, hopefully not too crazy, then you do want to be a staff class with some agility. Yeah, looking at that, what do you think? Do you think there are anything that or is anything that you would remove or could remove without really taking away from that? I mean, maybe we can get rid of avoidability. Yeah, see, exactly. That's the one I was thinking too. Avoidability would be just there's a chance for a monster not to hit you if you come in contact. So I was thinking for the slight attribute, it's more kind of stealth. So the higher that is, you have a chance to avoid the monster, not take damage while you're trying to platform and get through the other side. And maybe you want to get to a different platform to kind of attack from there. So add that aspect. Yeah, because I mean, maybe accuracy is not necessary for this. Maybe you don't need an accuracy check. Because I mean, I feel like that might just be adding random RNG for the sake of RNG. Like, oh, this attack missed for no reason. I guess I could probably highlight this, right? Yeah, I think I agree with that too. Yeah, because some games I have played that had the accuracy, it just becomes there's no reason for that. It becomes just a random RNG. Kind of like, I don't know, if you played Pokemon, just you have that 5% chance to miss a move for what? Just to have an RNG element that doesn't necessarily say anything about skill or your character or anything like that. So with that, so we have, if we remove accuracy, I think that's a good move. So our agility will increase our movement speed and jump, which I think's pretty standard. And we got to have those, right? It's a platformer. And then also our base range damage. So 3, which I think that sounds fine. You got to have a range damage, like if you're using a bow. Our wisdom is our recovery, our magic defense, and our magic damage. Makes sense. And then our sleight is going to be, I mean, I think agility could probably be attack speed, but I don't want to have it too much. So slight's going to be our attack speed because you're stealthy. You can move quicker. And then one thing I'm looking at is strength. I think it has its fingers in too many pots. What do you think? I mean, it's touching range damage because I feel like it can add a slight boost to that. Touching your melee damage, which you definitely can have. That one makes sense. Your health and health recovery makes sense. Maybe we have something else to the health recovery, but I don't know what else it would be. Maybe we don't have it impact your jump. So what I was thinking originally is to jump higher, you need strength. To move faster, you'd want agility. But agility would also affect your jump. Yeah, that's why I'm doing this together. And I'll land on something we agree with. Yeah, and this kind of just explains. It's going down there. You know what? I'm good with that. Let's just take it off the list now. I think both of those. We don't need random RNG. I mean, some of it's good. Like for damage range, I like to be in a range between this number and this number. You don't want to see the same number coming up each time. So that kind of RNG I like, an RNG that you can improve. So by improving your mastery, the range between minimum and maximum decreases. So you're more likely to hit a certain number in that range. So I am good with that. Cool. So let's go back into our document and see what we're looking at. See this real quick. Oh, that's actually a good point. So if we have a negative trade-off, so sure, you're going to be really powerful, but it's going to decrease in a negative way. And then to counteract that, you can add more agility. As long as they can't go below a base number of X, though, right? And at that base level of jump and movement speed, everything should still be completable. Hey, I like that trade-off. I am good with that. Let's make that note. So it's going to impact jump, but in a negative way. Yeah, I think that will be, again, one of the things I want to avoid is just putting all points into one stat. So by doing that, for sure, you're not going to do all strength because some of the platforming is going to be pretty. I want to make it something pretty technical, not like pixel perfect. That's too much, but to get it in time, there's going to be some penalties. There's going to be some portions of the platforming. If you miss your jump, you go to the bottom of the map, stuff like that. So it's going to be an easier jump, but have a bigger consequence of missing. And I think that's an important part of in the platforming. Hard jumps have little consequence or lesser consequence. Easier jumps that you may miss have bigger consequences. But I do like that. Do we make it decrease the movement speed as well? Because you can be... then you'll be slow. I mean, you got more mass, you're going to be slower, and you're not going to be able to jump as high. Or do we keep the movement speed? I guess we can tweak that when we start getting an actual like primitive model or game going to see how it feels. Because if you're moving really fast but you're not jumping high, I feel like that doesn't feel as good. So we may want to decrease it. Yeah, if you're being Sonic, but you can only jump up half a block, I don't think that feels as good. But it's going to decrease less than an agility would increase it. Right? Because if you add 1 and 1, you're always going to be stuck at the same base, jump, and speed. Okay. Yeah. No, that's a very fair point. Yeah, that's what I was picturing too. I was like, how would that feel as a game? Like if you're zooming through the game and you try to jump and you just boop, just go boop. It doesn't feel good that way. Usually when you're zooming, you want to be jumping high because you really start making progress flying through a map. So I think we'll do that, and that'll feel. I think it'll feel more natural. Let's go back to this. While you're here, Mario, what kind of story, what kind of setting would you like to see? I think I mentioned before, my mind always goes like that Legend of Zelda, medieval cartoon kind of things for these fantasy type games, Lord of the Rings, where it doesn't necessarily have to do that, right? It can be in the future and be the same exact mechanics, same exact game, just a different theme, different style. I'm open for anything. I want to see input from people in chat in the community. Because I know if I just go with what's in my mind, I think every single game I make would look the exact same. World setting. That's how you spell that. Takes place in the future. Yours goes medieval as well. Mine never goes future. I don't know why. Maybe I need to play more future games. But it just always goes medieval, which I mean I'm fine with. I think it's safe. It's a safe aesthetic, a safe theme. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Just starting out with this. Medieval cartoon. And I mean, I probably just played a lot of games. They have a very similar base story. Enemy takes over the world, destroy everything, you go beat them, the end. So I picture starting in a ruined town overrun by monsters. Which it doesn't have to do that either, but I think it's just a lot of the common themes throughout. Start to destroy town. Move through environments. Corrupted by evil. Right? I mean, this seems very, very common. We can think of something different. Our art and sound, I mean, I guess really it'll take, once we land on the world setting, we can really dive into this, but I always liked, for 2D platformer, this is very, not a great screenshot, because it doesn't show like the actual world. Maybe I can pull up something real quick. What's a good map? I mean, like something this kind of art style, I just like the kind of charm it has. And you can, it already has similar platforming elements, right? You got ropes, you got platforms that are not just like tile based. But to turn this tone maybe darker, more, a little more edge of realism to it, I think would be nice. I don't know. We can figure that out. That's down the line where we really need to finalize that. Where my mind is heading now. Okay, let's get back and let's finish off this game design document for today. I think that'll be at least what I want to do today. All right, where are we at now? Funding monetization strategy. The less fun stuff. Oh, no, we already did that. We were talking about the alpha launch on Mario's birthday. Got to hit that. What kind of monsters and bosses? I do have an idea of what I want. Let me open this one back up because I think I do have some visuals. I want it to be kind of theme-based because it's going to be going through different environments. So if we go from the city to the desert to the forest to the grasslands, I want it to kind of fit in with that theme. And that's why we'll have the different themes, so we have a reason to have these different monsters. But I brought up some from different games. I like when they have a level of naturalism, nature to them. Like these are AI generated, and like I said, once this becomes a commercial thing at all, we're gonna stop using any AI generated stuff. That's the whole thing. Right now, it's a hobby. If we start getting money in any stretch, that's done. But I like the feeling of mixing a monster. This is a little too cute, right? But mixing the monster with the natural environment. And then for actual sprites that are in game, like the theme of this one, like how cool is this monster? Right? I mean, I know it's a little cartoony little kid, but a demon possessing a doll like that, I always like that one. That, again, from MapleStory, but I feel like it has a lot of personality through compared to like, here's some Zelda bosses or monsters that I like too. So I think a mixture between these kind of things. So in the desert, there'll be probably some sort of stone golem or a snake-like or lizard-like. So they'll be matching the themes of the environment they're in. Bosses, I haven't given too much thought on. But what are you thinking? What kind of enemies do you like? Is there a certain game that you're thinking of that would kind of fit into this hybrid platformer 2D RPG type game? Because I mean, I can only pull from what I know. I can research everything forever, but I want to see if there's a style that you like that you've come across. Yeah, and the bosses will be split between, I mean, I guess it'll be level 5, 10, 15, 20. Oh, do you have an idea for the story? Let's hear it. Let's hear it. I'll get that document open. We'll start writing that out. Yeah, the monsters are hard. I mean, I think for me, anything with art's hard, and I just need to look at more and more games, more different styles to do. Look at what some of the artists are doing out there and see what will best fit. But yeah, let's hear that story that'll tie the monsters and the level themes. Ooh, I like that. I like that. That has it reminds me of a little bit of like Twilight Princess. There's the I think it's 4 mirror fragments that kind of get spread out. But I like how it can tie into the mini bosses. I'm gonna drop that right there. Because that's a great idea, because that big boss is connected through this. So maybe one is, thinking Triforce here, but one is, it's wisdom, it's a magic attack, it has high magic defense, it has those sort of things. One's powerful, it's just a big axe wielding kind of boss, right? That you need to tank. It does a lot of damage. It's slow. It does a lot of damage. I can get behind that. So what should we call these 4 fragments? And you know what I'm thinking now? Yeah, let's go back to this one. So maybe each of these are unlocked at a boss. So this first skill, like you only have add points to mastery or something, but you unlock the power up once you defeat a certain boss. You can do that, or we can just keep it simpler. But I mean, say you get to level 10, that's when this skill opens after you defeat a boss. Exactly. I like that. So yeah, each mini boss, they can get something. So maybe the first one, they unlock their level 5, they can unlock their skill. So you'll get your bow, you'll have to do mastery, mastery, mastery. Level 5, you beat the mini boss, you unlock your skill. Then level 10, you unlock your power up. And then maybe there'll only be 3 mini bosses and the big boss will be at level 20. I mean, we can really do that. After power up, what can we do that's not going to complicate things too much? Because if we add another branching thing right now, then already that adds 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or something different branches. So maybe it's just an enhancement. So if your power up was piercing, maybe your enhancement is it can go through 2 different enemies or something like that. Right? So then it's not another choice you have to make. It's just you can make it more powerful. And that could just be a... You know what? Actually, I have an idea. Maybe there could be just 2 passive slots. So level 5, you get your skill. Level 10, you get a passive. 15, you get a power up. And 20, you get another passive. That way, it's not branching. Right. We want to keep it. So this would be passive 1. And there's just a list of 4 that you choose from. It'll be separate from this whole the whole tree. How does that sound? Do you think that keeps it a little simpler than adding more choices? And 15. 20, yeah, you'll get your second passive right before the main boss. I like that. Feels good. Feels good. Got level 10. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't overcomplicate things. And I mean, passes are good to have. You don't want to have a bunch of skills to manage. I mean, some games do, but for this, I think it just... it's supposed to be simple, right? That's the whole thing. That's 1. So skill will be level 5. And this one will be at 10. Nice, nice, nice. There we go. Now we're cooking. Now we're cooking. Great idea. See? This is why we want to have the community interaction. It's already a better game. It's already a better game. You can already feel it. Let's go back here. Main boss, shatter a powerful object. What do we want to call this? Should it be like a real life object, like a relic or an idol or an amulet or a mirror? Or should we just make up a... Yeah, I'm sorry, check life. Yeah, naming things. I do too. I went through and to get like placeholder names, I use ChatGPT, and the placeholder names that it comes up with are either so generic or they have that sound that you know this is what an elf thing should sound like. It's like L'Oreal line or something. It's like, okay, you're just taking anything from Lord of the Rings and Zelda and kind of smushed it together to make a name. I think, I mean, I keep thinking Triforce too. Zelda Triforce split into the 3 pieces. Powerful object. Let's just assume this is going to be some sort of relic / amulet. For now. It's going to be called the Yeah, and this is also something we probably don't need to figure out. 4 pieces. I'm going to call these the shards. Right, and then each piece goes to one of the 4 mini bosses. And I think this will tie right into the attributes and everything too. Be power, wisdom, agility, sleight. And then, yeah, biothemes preceding each mini boss. So I associate with deserts or rocky stuff. So that with power. And then wisdom could be, what wisdom? I think agility would be forests. Sleight could be swamps or something. Something like that. This determines type of boss. So strong, slow, power, magic, with skill, wisdom, etc. Yes. Yep. That feels real nice. See, that already helps. Cool. And we'll definitely build on this, right? We're going to build on this lore. We're going to build on the story. Main boss shout. Some ranger comes in, finds the town's relic or amulet that's been bringing them peace for 1,000 years, and they steal it and they take the power. They corrupt the land. It gets shattered. Each of these pieces falls in the mini bosses, and you destroy the monsters that are part of the corruption. You beat the bosses. You gain power each time to get to a point where you can take on the actual boss. Beautiful. Love it. Protagonist. It's not personality, ability. It's really just going to be the player, right? It's whatever you project onto that. Do we want to have it be a blank sort of protagonist like Link from Zelda, or do we want to make it have a personality that you feed into? Like maybe outcast, something to prove. Have that, and there's going to be some sort of UI text, right? And there's got to be a telling the story throughout this too. So that could be their personality when they respond, instead of it just being completely from the player. I can see both ways. Key NPCs. I mean, there's not going to be. I mean, there'll probably be like an overall narrator. And give background on everything. So that NPC is not really going to be interactive in a sense where you're going to a potion shop or anything like that. It's just going to be someone to guide you through the story. Because really, this is going to be gameplay centric. It's going to be speed, beat the time, get on the leaderboard, and it's going to be play style based on what you choose. So those kind of NPCs become very complicated and start diverting us into more of an RPG territory when we want to stay really focused on platform with very minor RPG elements. Like the antagonist. All right, antagonist is going to be the main boss. the enemy, bad guy, probably corrupted by power, pretty typical. Found relic, corrupted the land. Broke relic to 4 pieces. Into mini boss. Antagonist with own personality. There's going to be an evil wizard. There's going to be a deranged archer. There's going to be maybe a dwarf or something with the power. That'd be good. I like this. I like this. And I think, have we gotten to the end here? Got to get going here soon. So I want to make sure that we got to the end. Sketch your markups. This is it's called Miro. I already forgot. Yeah. I think that's it. I think that's it for today. Just coming up on our 2-hour mark. And I think this was really, really good today. Like, I feel like it's really formed into what we can picture as a game. And as we saw, just having that little bit of community interaction. Thank you again, Simply Mario, for all your input on this, because I think what you brought to the table already, getting another mind into it, has made it a more well-rounded game. And kept it in scope, less complicated, but also more interesting. So I think that's really important. Let's see where we're at and see where we're going to go next time. So this is where we actually got a lot on here. So we finished our game design document. It's really important. We figured out what engine we're going to work with. We kind of got a basic story. We have our basic game loop. Yeah, I'm going to try to be more consistent. I keep running into issues starting streaming, but at least every Thursday night, 8 p.m., maybe we'll make it 8:30 p.m. Pacific, 11:30 Eastern, is when I plan to do this every Thursday night. And really just keep this going. And throughout the week, I'll try to brush up on skills and do learning on the side, do some tutorials, and then the plan would be to really try to do all the bulk work on stream. I want to do the actual coding. I want to do thing, but I do see how that's going to really drag out the process. But I want it to be a really community. I don't want all of a sudden to come back next Thursday and the game's done and be like, oh, what the heck just happened? So it's going to be a really slow pace because, I mean, like I said, I'm still learning too. Like, you want to start, I want to start. I probably have less experience than most people on this, but that's what we're doing here as community. And I want to try to inspire like other people that have this passion. Because if you're anything like me, in the back of your mind, it's like, I want to make a game. I want to do this. I've always wanted to, but I'm too scared to start. So maybe if you see me struggling, you can open up your game that you want to mess with too, and we can struggle together. It's kind of the thing. I start making a player movement script on screen. You do it too. We both tweak it. Like, hey, this worked better. Boom. We'll throw it in this one. And actually go through the developing on screen, the testing is my plan. But I offline, I will do tutorials, training, trying to brush up on my actual like coding skills because I don't have a strong coding background. I have enough to be dangerous in a lot of areas. And yeah, I think that's going to be the plan. And if we start getting more and more people interest following along with this project, then I would definitely like to add another day of developing. So we'll do Thursdays, and if we can get Tuesdays as well, or Thursdays and Saturdays, or something like that to really start pushing this along for right now, that's all the time I can devote. And yeah, we'll try to do it all together. So with that, I think I am going to call it for today. Appreciate everyone for stopping by. Appreciate you, especially Simply Mario on this. Really added great input, and we will see you next week. Same time. I will try my best to be on time. It really is hard with the kids. That's really what dictates when everything gets set up, and obviously I got to prioritize the family like that. So I will catch you guys next week. See you later. Take care.